the books. It is August 26th here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I am your host, Justin LeBar, being joined by Wrestling Inc.'s owner, Raj Giri, and newest member to the team. He joined us last Wednesday. Glad he's back again. He is pro wrestler Sam Adonis. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
I'm wonderful. Happy to be back. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me once again. I'm dealing with a severe case of the hiccups right now, so some of the listeners might have to hear one or two, and I apologize in advance.
Boo!
I wish that worked. I really wish that worked.
Raj, how are you?
Man. I'm doing good. How about you? How about yourself? A long week of wrestling. This is basically every day since Friday through Tuesday. Oh no, I guess Saturday is the one break that we get from first run wrestling from AEW or WWE. So it's a lot of wrestling this week, man.
It's a lot going on. Of course, Wrestling Inc. has coverage of all angles. You can go and read a lot of news of what's going on in the world. But tonight here on the podcast, we're going to focus on NXT. So this an interesting NXT, and we'll get into why as we're coming off of NXT Takeover. And next NXT is not going to be next Wednesday. It's going to be on Tuesday because of being preempted due to NHL playoffs on the USA Network. So a lot of dynamics at play, and we'll break them down as we go. So we kick off at Full Sail with the new NXT champion, Karrion Kross, coming out with Scarlett. And basically we see Kross, he's in a sling. We had, it's on Wrestling Inc. It was confirmed by Triple H right after Takeover on the media call that Kross, in fact, did have some kind of shoulder injury. Well, basically, we find out that this is going to keep him out for a significant amount of time, and Kross vacates the title. He puts it down in the center of the ring. They have the hourglass right next to it. They turn the hourglass, and in tick tock, we will be back. So right off the bat, this guy who's been one of the best built talents since his debut in the last few months, such quality control in NXT, gets to the top of the mountain really quick in NXT and immediately has to drop it. Sam, how did this? Sam, did you know prior to this NXT that he was injured, and how did this come off to you?
I knew on Saturday night when we discussed it that the initial reports were that he was injured. But, you never want to see this. That was just terrible timing, and it really upset me tonight seeing that whole situation play out. However, I think on a positive note, I think it's probably the best thing to do in that situation. I think it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to, kind of leave a lot of avenues open to see where you can go. You're really going to keep him strong. I think that's going to be a way to not dilute him with any unnecessary matches and just kind of keep him, in the same spot that he was in. I think it's cool. It makes him look like a badass relinquishing the title. The promo was just awesome. I think, again, I don't want to see it happen because, he's a great guy. He's a great performer, great gimmick, everything. I would like to see him have his run as a champion, but I definitely think, coming out of this, there's probably more of a mystique and interest, an added level of that we didn't have prior to tonight. So I think going forward is probably going to be pretty interesting and pretty cool.
Well, Justin Lopez kind of shares similar thoughts. $10 super chat. Thank you, Justin. He said this might have been a blessing in disguise for Kross. When healthy, he could return to the main roster without having been pinned to lose the NXT title. He's Vince's wet dream of a superstar. I suppose that is possible. Raj, what's your reaction to him having to vacate a couple days after?
On the one hand, I agree with you guys. Like it does it just keeps him in the news. It's something different. He doesn't have to relinquish it. As soon as he comes back, he's still this killer monster going after the title. It does suck that as soon as he gets the belt, I think this is the best built character that we've seen in a long time in wrestling. As far as almost like a Drago build, like just unbeatable monster, just destroys everybody. And it would, you can't help an injury. So, I almost wonder if after he separated his shoulder, if they should not advertise Keith Lee the next night, so that they at least keep him in the mix in NXT and keep him on board before, vacating the title from Karrion Kross.
Well, fans of Keith Lee's NXT music and ring gear would probably agree to that based upon their
I think personally also that, you never quite know the severity of a shoulder separation. I think this is almost, in my opinion, could be something that came up to protect him because they don't know where it's going to go. They don't know if it's going to be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. or 4 months, whatever it's going to be. At least this situation kind of shakes everything up and makes same people tonight that were tuning in to see the new champion say, "Oh my God, what's going to happen next?" So I mean, there might be a little bit of plotting and planning behind this as well.
Sam, have you ever dealt with this injury before?
I've dislocated my shoulder. I've never separated. I don't know if there's a difference or not, but you just get popped back in.
Well, I was gonna say,
like
what was the
Lethal
time?
Weapon 2, or
No, I missed no time. I got it right back in,
Right
and
back.
it was like it never hurt again.
Okay. Well, there will be news a little bit later here on the show about what they are going to do with that vacated title, so we'll get to that here shortly. And we go now to ringside, where we have Vic Joseph back again in the lead spot on commentary. He's with Beth Phoenix, and he's got Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett, first time being seen on WWE television, I think since, what, 2016, Raj?
since that was when he left the company. And he's been doing commentary. He did commentary for Lucha is it Lucha Underground? He did
NWA. He did.
Yeah, NWA. He did some in the UK as well, and he's been great at it.
Yeah, he added some things tonight. If I can remember them as we go through, I'll bring them up. But and he immediately noted a little bit of relatability here. He has had to vacate a title before for the exact same injury that Cross is dealing with. Unfortunately, that was a common thing for Barrett. He had several times big pushes were halted with injury. So good to see him on screen. And like I said, I think he added something to commentary as we go through.
You normally don't see WWE bring a big star. You know, he was a pretty big star. He had main evented pay-per-views. They normally don't bring them back in a role like this for no reason. Usually it leads to something else. So I have a feeling this isn't the last we're going to see of Wade Barrett in WWE and NXT.
It's not. In fact, they ended up confirming later that he will be back next Tuesday on commentary. So we will see him again. It was a very small thing that they threw in there. So we get into our first match of the night. Is NXT Tag Team Titles match. Breezango versus Imperium. Two of the members of Imperium, Eichner and Barthel. And up against Breezango. Yeah, this match started off just very traditional Fandango. Just couldn't get out of the ring. They cut it in half. He's just on the receiving end of all the heat. They even go to commercial, come back from commercial. It's still going that way, and then it really picked up. And this had this match had some really fun, creative offensive sequences. I'm not gonna say that all of them I'd never seen before, but you don't see them in every tag team match these days.
I was definitely entertained. I really, really liked watching Imperium. Both of those guys I've actually known for years working in Europe. Fabian Eichner actually worked under Steve Wright, who was Alex Wright's father, who is literally like a dictionary of professional wrestling. Every hold, sequence, anything you can think of, this Fabian Eichner knows. I don't know how much he's been able to show off on NXT television, but just seeing them in the ring, coming up with this creative offense, I thought was awesome. The one thing that I'm still kind of new to the game here. From what I've gathered over the last 3 episodes of NXT that I've seen, I almost felt like Breezango was a bit of a throwaway comedy gimmick. I did not expect them to go over tonight and win the tag titles. So again, maybe we're in the section of the program where it's going to rebuild and just kind of shake things up, get more interest for the Wednesday night viewership. I don't know what it is, but I didn't see it coming. The match was awesome, and I don't even know where it's going to go from here.
So Raj, so they end up having a finish here. Ultimately, Fandango goes to the top and does a double leg drop on both opponents. To me, Imperium just isn't the same. I mean, Imperium was built around Walter, and Walter hasn't been there since the pandemic started. I'm assuming because of travel. So I think Breezango, they have been appearing more and more in NXT. Sometimes they do comedy, of course, but they are really good in the ring. I think this is a much needed shakeup for the tag titles.
I mean, to Sam's point, I think it's kind of like 3MB coming to NXT and beating your tag team champions in the sense that it's a team that no one was taking seriously, and all of a sudden they're beating this team that's supposed to be one of your top teams. Now, right now, NXT doesn't have that many top tag teams. It's not like years ago when they had American Alpha and the Ascension and all these teams that were squandered on the main roster, but in NXT they were awesome. And right now the tag team division is struggling. Imperium, I agree with you, Justin. Without Walter, I don't know if people can name the members of Imperium and look at their face and be like, oh, that's Fabian Archner, and I just feel like they don't have the charisma without Walter, and I don't know, Breezango just feels like a step backwards. I'm all for. I think Fandango is very talented, and I think Tyler Breeze is very talented. But I think in this tag team, it's just done. It's just they were a comedy team. It was kind of over with. To bring it back, it just feels like going to the past. When they should move on. Fandango turns heel. Tyler Breeze turns heel. Change his name, do whatever, but they need something else because it just feels like it's sucking down the tag division, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, they definitely were comedy, Fashion Files and all, when they were on SmackDown. But I do think they've at least been given the chance to show that they are credible in the ring and it's in the matches they have had on NXT since their return to NXT. We got another
turn him heel and give him a different name. You know what I mean? Breezango is just so dated.
Justin Lopez, another $5. Johnny Curtis, who Fandango has been contracted since 2006. With this is his first championship. Yeah, Wade Barrett kind of actually put this over a little bit on commentary, noting how these guys, they've been around for as long as they have and haven't got to wear gold. So, yeah, it's good for them,
Well, would you want to be in a tag team in NXT when you've seen how they've progressed to the main roster? I mean, what tag team has done well? I can't think of. I mean, the Ascension became jobbers quick. American Alpha, they had like a few months before they were treated like nothing. I can't even remember the last time a tag team did well from NXT. Revival became jobbers pretty quick.
AOP, they just can't stay healthy.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, again, thank you to Justin Lopez for the $5. You guys, of course, we always appreciate all the super chats. It helps out and supports this podcast to keep going. If you send a super chat, and as long as it's not wildly inappropriate, we'll throw it up on screen and give it a read. All right, so new tag team champions in NXT. Breezango. Backstage, we see the new NXT North American champion, Damian Priest. He gets stopped by Mackenzie Mitchell. Then he's interrupted by Timothy Thatcher. Thatcher says he wants a title shot. He laughs and says that's where Priest got to hide behind a ladder to win that title. And Thatcher says, he'd show you what real wrestling is. Priest just kind of dismisses and walks off. So setting the table there for next feud for Damian Priest. We also then see kind of a secret style camera filming peering through the window of Triple H, Shawn Michaels, William Regal, and Matt Bloom all sitting in a boardroom discussing what to do with this vacant NXT title. And we will get an answer later tonight. Next up, we get a returning Tommaso Ciampa up against Jake Atlas. This a quick style squash match. Of course, the first time we've seen Ciampa since he lost to Karrion Kross at TakeOver in Your House in early June. This was all Ciampa, and then the big story here: Ciampa gets the win, and then vicious beatdown of Jake Atlas afterwards. They get Atlas on the gurney, get the neck brace on him, and then Ciampa comes and DDTs him off that. Sam, this was brutal.
Oh, unbelievably brutal. He kicked the crap out of him. I don't know where Jake Atlas is at this point in his NXT career. I know he's pretty fresh. I was on a couple of shows with him last year. He got all the talent and potential in the world. I don't understand. Like, again, just coming into this blind, I don't know why that had to be done with Jake Atlas. I don't know if they have other plans for him or how he fits into the pieces of the puzzle. But I mean, for what you were doing, that angle was purely to get Ciampa over. And I mean, they could have used whether it's a guy that's not on television or a enhancement talent or something. It still was going to get the same message across. Maybe there's a setup for the future, getting Jake Atlas back for revenge. I don't know, but I just think he didn't have any. There was nothing strong about Jake Atlas in that, and that bums me out because he's a really good guy and he's really talented.
Yeah, and you mentioned heating Ciampa up, and again we'll find out here shortly, perhaps why they did that. But yeah, so Tommaso Ciampa.
I mean, I feel like Ciampa. I don't know if you guys agree, but I feel like he's always been most effective as a heel.
Oh, absolutely.
When he was a babyface, it just wasn't the same. He's just an awesome heel. I like this. I mean, clearly, I agree with Sam. Jake Atlas is a hell of a talent, and it sucks to see him used in that kind of a role where it's like a squash guy. But I do like that with Ciampa, they're giving him new life because he's one of those guys I don't see doing well on the main roster. We see with Vince, we see when it's very hard for a smaller guy, a guy that's not very tall, to get over on the main roster. I think Ciampa would have a hard time. So it's good to see him, having a rebirth in NXT. And
was he a babyface when he got hurt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's been him and Gargano were baby faces in a tag team called DIY, and then they had a tremendous heel turn of Ciampa turning on Gargano. It was one of the best ones that NXT's ever done.
It was great.
They had a great feud there,
and they kind of switched back and forth.
And then they switched. Then somehow Ciampa became the face, and Johnny became just the dick heel, and now they're both heels. So that's the dynamic is.
Yeah, and his last match, Ciampa, he got killed by Karrion Kross at Takeover. I think it was June or July.
It was in your house in June, yeah.
Yeah.
And what hurt him? What was he out with?
He just got squashed.
Yeah, I think he was just selling. I think he was just selling the loss.
Okay.
It's kind of like Cody and Brody Lee right now. Where Cody's out for a little bit, just selling how badly he's beaten.
So we get a video package on Candice LeRae cutting a promo on Tegan Knox and the history they have there. More backstage, we get Bronson Reed asking Bronson Reed, about losing out on the North American title. He believes that he should get the first NXT North American title shot from Priest, and Austin Theory shows up behind him to confront him. Austin Theory, to recall to everybody, we saw him around WrestleMania time. He was on Raw with Zelina Vega's crew, and then it was just kind of being with Vega and Garza, and then
one of the Rollins disciples.
He became one of Rollins' disciples, and then he just all of a sudden disappeared off of TV. So
yeah, there were some during that speaking out movement. There was an accusation against him. He disappeared. Hadn't been on TV since.
Yeah,
that was June, right, when that happened.
And he confronts. It was like mid to end of June. So he confronts Reed. Reed gives a big slap across the face, and that is that. So again, more foreshadowing what's to come for some of these guys in the mid card. Mia Yim up against, it's supposed to be Mia Yim up against Mercedes Martinez. Out comes the Robert Stone brand, and Robert's out there just with Aaliyah, and he says, after what happened last week, he was not going to let Mercedes Martinez have this match with Mia Yim. And then as Robert is talking, he just falls to the ground as Shotzi Blackheart comes out in her tank and once again runs him over and parks the tank on top of him. And now it's going to be Shotzi Blackheart having a match against Mia Yim. Real quick, Sam, before we do the match, did you find this as amusing as I did?
I did. I thought this whole segment was really cool. These girls both have so much character and energy. I really liked it. That can always be difficult having a babyface versus babyface match, trying to getting people to choose sides or not necessarily wanting them to choose sides, but to be able to give them an interesting match. I thought both girls worked really hard. Everything they did looked really crisp and good. It was just fun, all around fun.
Yeah, this was a good match. They played up the two babies, as you said, and then at one point I think it was Yim. She kind of got a little more intense, and it all of a sudden shifted from we're in this here for real. But back and forth, and Blackheart hits a drop kick and then goes up to the top, does a senton, the flying senton, landing on top of Yim. I think she actually caught a little bit of Yim's face. It looked pretty rough when it happened real time. And Shotzi Blackheart gets the 3, so a bit of an upset here. Shotzi Blackheart, based upon where she's been in the booking, getting a win over Mia Yim. Now, again, they played up to kind of protect Yim. The Yim had no time to prepare for Shotzi, so there's that. But I like this. I think this definitely elevated Shotzi to a new level.
I didn't see this match, but when I read it and seeing that Mia Yim got the win, Shotzi Blackheart got the win. I remember I was surprised because. And then it surprised me that I was surprised because it's not like they have been pushing either to the very top, but they have been doing a good job with Mia Yim. So I was a little surprised that she took the loss here because she has been looking great lately. She has been just vastly improved. She's been awesome. And she looks like someone that could really fit in that NXT women's title picture. So, and Shotzi Blackheart, they're building her up well too. I think that's the one thing NXT does better than any other brand, any other wrestling promotion right now, is building up the women, and I think it was a great move because I feel like it really elevated Shotzi.
Well, you talk about the women's division. The main event would be a women's tag match, and we hear from half of them on a backstage. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, as they are being hyped for their match against Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. And Kai says she still deserves to be NXT Women's Champion and will prove it tonight. And Gonzalez tells Rhea Ripley that she messed up by getting in her face. And then they walk off. So that's the promotion for what will come later on for the main event. But we're at the turn into hour number 2, and this is where General Manager William Regal hits the ring to make the announcement of what's going to happen with the vacant NXT World Title belt. And he said that after going over the thoughts with Triple H and the rest of the council. It is going to be it's going to be a 4-way. All 4 men in the 4-way have all been NXT World Champions. That being Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Finn Balor, and Adam Cole. But he said next Tuesday, at the NXT Super Tuesday, it'll be those 4 in a 4-way, but it will be a 60-minute Iron Man match. So whoever gets the most decisions in their favor in a 60-minute Iron Man match. And just before we get into that, I'll just give out a shout out to Steve Marcachulli, $1.99. Cross versus the Beast. Karrion Kross versus the Beast. Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania needs to happen. Money. That would be if Kross is maintained right. That could be something huge for sure. But Sam, fatal 4-way Iron Man match. How would you like to have it go 60 minutes?
Oh, I've done 60 minutes. I actually just did that about 3 months ago, which I was proud of, but that's not important. This match is going to be nuts. I haven't seen many of these guys NXT matches. I just know what they're capable of. I've seen a lot of them, in their past with Ring of Honor and Evolve and such like that. A 60-minute Iron Man match with these 4 is probably the equivalent to about 26 normal wrestling matches. There's going to be every finisher ever all over the place. I think it's going to be really intense and fun. The one question I had was, are they going to kind of lean towards Adam Cole continuing to be a babyface just for this match? He's coming off the Pat McAfee match where he did, he was essentially the babyface in that match, defending the honor of pro wrestling. Coming right off this, going into this 4-way next week, he didn't have an appearance on TV tonight. I'm assuming, they're going to keep him as, a bit of a babyface, so it's not a 3-on-1 situation against Balor. But whether they do or not, it's an easy fix afterwards, with a promo or the next week's TV. That's basically just what I was wondering out of it. What's Cole going to do?
Yeah, because I don't even think Balor's that strong of a babyface. He came to NXT, came back to NXT as a heel, and he they where they put the spotlight on him, no more of him doing this, and all the fans partake in the entrance. And even now, I don't really look at him so much as a babyface. This is an odd dynamic of a match.
Remember, I'm out of the loop here. I know.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. I'm just. Oh no, I know. I'm just.
Maybe it's been too long since I've seen him wrestle, but I just associated him as a babyface. So maybe it's going to be 4 heels. Maybe that's going to be better storytelling. I don't know. I just I don't know where Cole's going to land on this after the McAfee match.
Raj, who jumps out at you? Who do you go with in this time of calling an audible?
Well, here's the problem I have with this match, and I think I like this step. I like it that it's different. Every Iron Man match I think that we've ever seen has been a singles match, right, between 2 people. I'm trying to think if there was a tag team one, but all I can remember is a singles match. So having a 4-way with the guy getting the most falls, I like that idea. I think it's really cool. The problem I have is you got Johnny Gargano, who's been in the NXT main events for forever, Tommaso Ciampa, who's also been forever, Finn Balor, who was forever before he went to the main roster and came back, and then Adam Cole. So I would have liked to seen one of those guys out, maybe 2 of those guys out, and bring in 2 new guys that could really freshen things up. Whether it's a Damian Priest or someone that hasn't been in the NXT main event scene forever. And that was the only thing that kind of stood out to me, was that you're getting a lot of guys that have been in that mix for a long time, and this could be a good opportunity to bring somebody up. I mean, Kyle O'Reilly, just someone random. I don't know, just someone to kind of mix things up.
Well, again, they're trying. It's a different night for them. They're trying to have to make a big deal of the Super Tuesday next week to get an audience. So I mean, I'm okay with them going with who's 4 of the biggest guys we got, and let's go the gimmick that they've all been there before.
I look at someone from the main roster,
but again, this has all happened pretty quick, and they got the draft coming, so who knows what they already have planned of who to send to NXT potentially if people from our SmackDown go. So I don't know. I mean, this who knows when they've made the decision. Who knows when they got the results back for Kross, and when they finally said, okay, yeah, we're going to have him vacate the title. It could have been as soon as Sunday morning. It could have been as late as yesterday evening.
Well, they had a good idea that night that Triple H had said he had separated his shoulder. So at that point, you got to be putting together contingency plans. Again, I'm nitpicking here, but I'm sick of Gargano and Ciampa. I like them both. I think they're great, but being in the NXT main events, it just feels like running in place. And And Adam Cole as well. I'd like to see Adam Cole go to the main roster. Ciampa and Gargano, I don't think would do as well on the main roster, so I think they're good where they're at. I like how they're redoing Ciampa, but get someone new in there, in my opinion.
Money making JJ. I think Wade Barrett gets involved. There's a wild card. I don't know. I look at these four, and the only two that I give a chance of I think of getting this title is Ciampa or Finn. Because I feel like you just did Adam Cole with that long run. He did everything he could do. However many days it was, 400 or whatever the case. Then you have Gargano, who again he had a run. Granted, it was as a baby face, but I don't know. I look at you have Ciampa who lost, who also vacated the NXT title. Remember that he never got pinned for the NXT title. So there's a story there of redemption. You also have Finn, who they've been trying to light him back up since I think they thought bringing him back to NXT would rejuvenate his career after it really kind of muddled off on Raw and SmackDown. And what did it muddle off for? Because he was the first ever Universal Champion and got the same injury the night that he won that title and had to vacate it the next day. And his career was never the same after that. So I feel like the two guys who had to vacate titles before in the company, world titles, and Ciampa and Finn, and it would be something fresh for the NXT world title right now. So that's kind of where my booking mind goes to.
What do you think, Sam?
I just think it's completely up in the air. I think they're probably going with something that they know. Again, coming from someone that doesn't watch a lot of it, those names are probably the four synonymous names that I would use for NXT. Again, I don't know how important the ratings war is right now or whatever, but I think it's something that it's going back to Old Faithful. And if it's you're trying to pop the Tuesday night numbers for a one-off, I mean, I don't think there's any way they can lose from it. These are the people that built the brand. These are the people are familiar with. So I think it's probably more or less like that, and I'm sure they're probably already thinking beyond that, just, for a one-off fix of the situation with Cross. I think, it's pretty good choice.
Let me ask you guys this, though. Do any of those guys seem intriguing against Cross? Like, no. I think Damian Priest in that match, Damian Priest, you could build him to the point where he is an intriguing figure against Cross. He's got the size. He's got, he's got his own charisma. At least I think it's more intriguing than any of these other four guys in this match.
I love Priest, but I want to see him. I don't want to rush that. Let him do his thing. Let him be dominant in the mid card with that title. You talk about who could you see against Cross? I know we already just saw it, but it looked like by the way they booked Ciampa tonight, he's the one. I mean, they made a point to make sure that he looked super vicious. Now, granted, they didn't throw Finn out there. They didn't throw Gargano out there. They didn't throw Cole out there. We saw promos from everybody else. We saw pre-tape backstage promos, but they made a point to send Ciampa out there and look really vicious. So
I almost agree from the guest earlier that put on the message about Cross possibly moving onwards and upwards already. I think these are the talents that people associate with NXT. NXT has much more of a gritty wrestling brand, and they want to see those cool indie wrestling styles, where everybody's just working hard. I think Cross is almost, I love it because I think he's such a high level superstar, but I almost feel like they might see more in him than just NXT for now. They might think of him as a Monday Night Star or a pay-per-view star. It's possible. Again, this is maybe just speculation, but I could see this just being a way to get Cross out of the picture and going back to a new formula with, Old Faithful, like I said, to keep that image of the brand intact.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Drew McIntyre got injured, and he was injured in NXT. Instead of bringing him back to NXT, he was moved to the main roster. I could definitely, as soon as I saw Karrion Kross, I'm like, he's not long for NXT. As soon as Vince is paying attention to this guy and him and Scarlett, he's going to the main roster, sooner rather than later.
Sure.
How many times you can say main roster and expect me not to? I'm seething.
But back to Ciampa, to your point with Ciampa, when you saw Ciampa facing Karrion Kross last month or in June in your house, there was just such a discrepancy, just appearance wise, size wise, everything. It just,
when he stands next to Cross, you're all right. Yes.
Yeah.
Cross is legit 6'3", 6'4", and Ciampa I think is legit like 5'9".
Yeah, it's just.
I always say when I was a kid, wrestlers were deceivingly big. You would see Tito Santana at the airport, and you're like, "Holy cow! Yeah. I didn't know he was 6'6".
Roddy Piper was huge.
Now it's kind of the opposite. Right. I think now you see these wrestlers on TV, and you say, "Oh my God, look at him! He's ripped, chiseled, and jacked." and then you meet them, and they are a little bit smaller. But I think that's kind of what makes the brand of NXT unique. I think they do, they're not discriminatory towards size. You get to show your talent and do what you do. So I don't know. I think to me that seems to be the identity of the brand, and that's at least explains to me why they're going to stick with their guns for this one.
All right, let's get to a couple super chats we got here. Justin Lopez, another $2. Thank you. He says promoting it as a Mount Rushmore of NXT.
That is.
Absolutely. We got some more here. Let me catch up to them. $5 from Xavier Leone. How about a surprise fifth person to have it be a main roster guy? Well, the problem is that this is the only show they have between now and Tuesday. So, I don't think you want to save that for a social media promotion. I think you'd want to, unless somebody on SmackDown. Yeah, unless somebody on SmackDown or Raw says I'm going to NXT. I don't know.
Which that'd be a hell of a way to pop a rating.
Keith Lee could come back.
Yeah. If Keith Lee is on Raw, it's like, hey, I just beat Randy Orton and now I'm going to NXT, which I don't know.
Eric G 299 said I'd be down for Demon Finn versus Cross.
I could get into that.
Yeah, we have not seen. Would be good. Yeah, we have not seen the Demon, and that's been the. Yeah, it's been a while. That's been the biggest thing. That's been the biggest issue I think I've had with Finn. Finn's a great performer in the ring. There's no doubt about that. But it's like when he would do the dynamic of whenever he'd pull out the Demon for like the pay-per-view matches, essentially. Once I see the Demon and how cool the entrance looks and how cool the appearance looks, Finn Balor's just another dude. Yeah. Once you're the Demon, I can't deal like they've managed to pull it off well with Sweater Bray Wyatt and then Fiend. We've seen Sweater Bray Wyatt have some matches and he's more vulnerable and this and that, and he can get chokeslammed in loading docks. But when they made it work, and the Fiend still is interesting. But the whole dynamic of the Demon and Finn Balor, it just makes Finn look too vanilla to me.
It's like the Undertaker. If he's like, I'm Mark Calloway all these weeks, but on pay-per-views I'm the Undertaker. Well, you're like, that Undertaker's so freaking cool. Why am I going to get behind Mark Calloway? So I agree. I just feel like stick with that character.
Michael Myers is just a psychopath without the mask, basically.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So we go into another title match here on tonight's NXT. It's a cruiserweight title match. I'm going to predict this is probably Sam Elias' favorite match of the night. I don't know. Isaiah Swerve Scott up against Santos Escobar. And go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
I enjoyed it. No, I really did. I don't know if you were being facetious there or not.
No, I know I wasn't. I was at one point I was watching. I don't remember what it was. I almost texted you right when I saw it, and I was like, "This is like a match. I think it's like right up Sam's alley."
Yeah, I just adore Santos Escobar. I think he's fantastic. I think to me, he's a bit of a dark horse in this whole situation because I didn't know how well he was progressing in the NXT system. He's somebody that had so much success under the mask for years, and now I see him without the mask, and I'm like, what the hell are you wearing a mask for? He's got that rock star persona. He just looks like $1 million. He moves like $1 million, and he's staying true to his lucha libre roots by busting out the mask for that finish, yes. Which I don't know if they were trying to imply that it was a loaded mask, or I heard them saying something about the spirit of the mask gave him power to fight back. But either way, I think it's cool. I think it's probably, going to be his idea. I think it's probably just a way to keep Lucha Libre into the format. And I thought it was cool.
Yeah. So for those who missed it with what Sam's referencing here, so again, a really good match between these two athletic guys. I mean, Isaiah Swerve Scott can do some things that are just defy physics. But it gets to the point where Scott's really, it looks like he's got Escobar on the run here. And all of a sudden Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde come out. They pull a little distraction. Pull distraction enough for Escobar to get the upper hand back again. And then at one point, Escobar, and Joaquin Wilde actually brought this mask out and left it outside of the ring. Escobar ends up putting this mask on the outside. And then when Swerve comes to get him, he headbutts Scott and knocking Scott out, and that gets Escobar the win. And yeah, I was the same way, Sam. I couldn't quite, because I think Wade Barrett even said, he's like, I've been on the receiving end of some headbutts, and yeah, they can knock you out, but man, that was really like, I kind of thought they were trying to imply that
right.
Something was in that mask, and then Escobar kind of kept clutching it as he was with the belt, almost like he was hiding what might be in there. So I think we might see him do this gimmick a little bit more, and we might come to find out what's in this.
One question I had, just off topic, is there a WWE Cruiserweight Championship, or is there only an NXT Championship now?
It basically got merged.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there still a 205 Live program?
There is. They film it. They film it after SmackDown. I don't remember when it airs
No one
live.
watches it.
Is it still even now during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wasn't sure. That's off topic. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean, I know they film it. I know they film it after SmackDown, but I don't recall when it goes to the network. But yeah,
No, it's that night. It goes on right after.
Oh, that night.
SmackDown,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know.
Yeah, I look at Escobar. I see a superstar. I feel bad for the guys with him. I feel like it's kind of the undisputed era kind of thing where Adam Cole is clearly a star. The other guys, not so sure. But Escobar, I like that. I like the loaded mask gimmick. You've never seen it. You've seen it with the glove. You've seen Lex Luger's forearm back in the day. But you've never really seen it with a mask. So I think that's a cool.
We don't know for sure, but that's just how I took it. And I kind of think the whole spirit of the lucha mask, that would be something you do for a babyface, I would think, almost.
to load it up.
So Lucha Underground gimmick.
Yeah, right. I'll tell you what. I went to the filming of the Lucha Underground season 2, when they filmed the finale. I went out to LA, and that was a really, I don't know, that was something different. I'd never seen anything quite.
Oh, that's my dad has been a wrestling fan since 1962, and he came to Mexico City to see one of my matches once, and he says that it still blew everything out of the water. He said just seeing the lucha culture and everything involved, and the characters, the costumes. He still says it was one of the best. So I definitely give advice for anybody that's never watched Mexican wrestling or Lucha Libre to check it out, because there's just so much depth, fun, and excitement in it, whether it's Lucha Underground or AAA, CMLL, any of that stuff.
So go ahead, Sam, admit what's on your TV right now.
I'm actually watching CMLL from 2000. It's in the background. I
thought it was 1992. I thought you were going further back.
I was already on 92. This is
sorry.
Yeah, this is suggested videos. So I multitask. This is what I do. But I basically watch more wrestling than anybody ever should. And it tends to start in about 1972 and it finishes about 2003. That's pretty much my time frame of what I study.
When did you start watching wrestling?
I've watched wrestling my whole life because my dad was a promoter, growing up around the business. But when I was 7 years old, I used to start going to the ECW events in Pittsburgh. So I was a hardcore wrestling fan at 7 years old. From there, I got into Japanese and Mexican wrestling and just studied. And now I'm the biggest wrestling geek on earth.
So if you had to pick your favorite 2 to 3 year stretch of your whole life watching, I know most people are going to pick their childhood, but what would you say?
It's my life remembering or what I've seen in the past.
You're remembering, like as you were in it.
I would probably say about 97, 98. Yeah, that's right. Because I mean, I grew up with ECW. I would go to school whenever everybody's talking about Raw and SmackDown. I'm talking about Sandman and Raven and just. I mean, again, it probably warped me. It's probably why I'm so out of my mind right now. 7-year-olds shouldn't have been watching that, but I remember the first time we found it on TV. I was running through the house. Dad, ECW's on. My mom woke up and made everybody a cup of coffee, and we watched ECW at midnight in my basement. So we have a weird family, but it definitely made us who we are.
So you were going to the Golden Dome in Monaca.
Golden Dome and the Ross Draper Ice Garden. And honestly, that's why my brother's so good with a lot of his references, because as a kid, I would watch so much stuff and dude, you got to watch this video here. Check this out. We would just be living, eating, breathing, sleeping, wrestling. So I think it's kind of worked well for both of us up to this point.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. Ross Draper Ice Garden right down the street from me right here.
That's it.
All right, moving along here, we get the always entertaining Drake Maverick up against Kyle O'Reilly here. Some history here in the past. I don't recall it, but they were reminding us that Drake had been attacked by Kyle and some of the Undisputed Era. I again forgot it, but that's the kind of the point behind this one. Entertaining match. Everything Drake does is entertaining. Ultimately, O'Reilly, they get into a submission. They're back and forth on the mat, and eventually. Drake does tap out. Kyle O'Reilly gets the victory, and then after that, Undisputed Era starts beating him up, now outnumbering. Adam Cole was not out there with him, by the way. It was only 3 of them. They're beating up on Drake. Killian Dane comes out, clears the Undisputed Era out, gives out a vicious chair shot. I should note, vicious looking at least, and hopefully it was fine. We think that he's there to have friendship with Drake, and then he turns on Drake. So Killian Dane looks like he's a heel that are going to get behind here. and go up against the ultimate babyface that is Drake Maverick. Looking at a super chat that just came in. $3.99. Kill Shot versus King Cuerno tonight. Good stuff.
There you go, man. Represent that lucha. This match, there was a couple things I noticed in this match just that I really never paid attention to before. Kyle O'Reilly's awesome. He's one of a kind. There's not too many people doing his style, and that's the most impossible thing for wrestlers to do now is find something unique. The way he moves in the ring is just incredible. I think, from what I've seen, I don't see too many people, replicating that style. I could see him being somebody, that if they put the eggs in that basket, I think people would buy into it. The second thing is, holy cow, I have not seen Drake Maverick wrestle in years, and I love him. I think he could be, and this is weird, and I noticed that when he hit the ropes like Mysterio, I almost think that he could be like a big TV babyface. I think his size makes him so just endearing and adorable. I think he's an underdog. He's got that 1-2-3 kid mixed with amazing work. He's entertaining. He can cut a promo like anybody. I think, I don't know if they're going to give him the spot to shine to be able to get over more than he is, but I could see him being somebody, kind of in the Evan Bourne role before he disappeared, just that underdog baby face to get over. And go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. I agree. They've kind of given him a second life. He was on Raw and SmackDown doing the goofy 24/7 stuff,
which he was great at, by the way.
Which he was great at, and then he actually was announced by the company as one of the talents cut when they made cuts due to the pandemic in April. But he was already advertised to be part of this. It was a cruiserweight tournament in NXT, and he did the tournament, didn't win, but he fought really hard, and they said that he's earned a contract back. So There was a lot of controversy of what was a work, what was a shoot, right. Was he actually released, and then they decided to change it up. So he's getting like a bit of second life, and I agree with you. I noticed him hitting that middle rope. I thought Mysterio too, and he can do anything you ask him to do, whether it's in ring or whether it's a backstage. So
and he can talk, which is, in my opinion, still the most valuable asset for any of us. I think it's something that he could be money if given the opportunity. It's, he's a sympathetic babyface, and now all wrestlers come in every shape, size, and, personality. I think he could be great. The one thing I noticed about the end of this, and I could be wrong, this is merely speculation. I think last week I saw a promo for the return of NXT UK. I could almost think that maybe that Killian Dane thing with Drake Maverick could be setting up for something to be maybe the main storyline for their first pay-per-view back. That sounds like it makes sense because I know those guys are very over in the British market. So I don't know if that fits into the grand scheme of things, but that's kind of what I got from that.
It might. I believe Vic Joseph did say on commentary tonight that NXT UK is coming back. I think he said next month. I also thought the same thing about Wade Barrett. I thought, are they getting Barrett involved in the brand because he could be somebody over with NXT UK of note, so we'll have to keep an eye out. Justin Toner and several others bringing this up in the chat. So said Kyle was not in the post-match beatdowns. It was just the other two of Undisputed Era out there, so maybe seeds of a Undisputed Era split, so we'll keep an eye on that.
I gotta say with Drake Maverick, I actually interviewed Renee Michelle. That's gonna be on Wrestling Inc. next week. Drake Maverick's wife. She, first of all, she swears up and down that he was really fired. Like, that was a legit release. It was not a.
I was under that same impression.
Yeah, but after that great storyline, I just feel like they've just kind of dropped him a little bit. He's so entertaining. He's such a great talent. He's funny as hell. I'd like to see them utilizing him more.
I think honestly, real quick, just to interject, I think my opinion may change the more I watch this. So it's the things I say might just be because I'm completely in the dark. So sorry about that.
No. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying. I just think he had that momentum, and I feel like it's getting squandered. And you see this all the time with wrestlers when they're put in a hot angle, and then all of a sudden it's dropped. They were getting momentum, and then for whatever reason, it just squanders away. And you just don't want to see that happen in an era where there's not as many superstars and as many larger-in-life characters. You want to see guys building on that momentum and seeing how far they can go. And if they don't get there, then yes, squander their momentum or do whatever. But at least give them a shot.
And James agreeing with us about Maverick. He could shine with the right push. Thanks for watching us on Facebook there, James.
Smart man, James.
Absolutely.
Agree with me. I'm always right.
Very good. All right, and into the main event we go. Women's tag team action. So the story here: Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, obviously the thickest thieves here, up against Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. So Rhea and Io, the two baby faces, but don't have any want to be teaming together. That's right off the bat as Rhea Ripley's bossing Io Shirai around and making sure she knows that she will start the match. So this match, good tag match here for all that are involved. There was some outside interference. I'm trying to make sure I get to here.
Mercedes Martinez.
Yeah, Mercedes Martinez. So she, at one point, Martinez comes out and she pulls Ripley off the apron and she hits the steps. So that was set up there. So that ultimately is what came into the finish of Rhea eventually gets herself back in, tags herself back in out of stubborn pride. She's going to finish this match, but she just stumbles, is on spaghetti legs, takes a big boot from Raquel, who gets the pin. There was outside interference earlier as well that ended up bringing out Legado del Fantasma, and then Breezango and Isaiah Swerve Scott also came out. So there was some shenanigans there to keep that going. So that looks like that's gonna be Breezango's next feud is with possibly with Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde. So they had some other stories going on throughout this match. But yeah, the big thing here, Mercedes Martinez does appear, costs Ripley and Shirai the match. Raquel Gonzalez gets the finish, gets the win with a huge power slam on Ripley. So they really put over Gonzalez and her strength delivering this move and just manhandling or woman handling Rhea Ripley rather. So Gonzalez and Kai end NXT tonight standing tall.
I thought that was a pretty cool match. Everything was, pretty standard and textbook. It was a good way to get the angles across and stuff. The one thing that, again, you guys should probably answer this for me. Do you remember any altercations between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez prior to last week, or is that something that just started last week?
Last week's the first that I can recall, but if anybody in the chat knows better, but that last week was the first I recall.
My point being, again, being a spectator, sitting back.
I think Kai had the problem, and then Raquel's kind of her hired gun.
Well,
kind of
I feel like Raquel kind of came out almost overly aggressive. And for me, just as a viewing standpoint, like, what are you so angry about? She was charging her, she's trying to kill her, and she's just, it was very intense, and I love it. I love intensity. That's cool. I just like the process of getting there. And I think, I don't know if it was, I just didn't see why she was so angry with Raquel just because, of what happened last week, a face-to-face or whatever. I don't think she had real reason to be that intense and trying to, hurt Raquel yet. But, that's just my take on it.
Where was this at? Someone is pointing out that last week was their first encounter. There we go. James Egerton. Thank you, James. I just look at Rhea, and I've just seen her just downplayed so much this year. I made a mention on Twitter the other night, and some people thought I was ripping Rhea. And I'm not ripping Rhea. I was ripping how she's been booked, but I no longer see her as a big star going on the main roster if they've lost faith in her already. And I just kind of get that feeling like they've lost faith in her. Granted, sometimes you do got to lose, you do got to do the job, but they've really downplayed her the last 4 or 5 months. And look, Raquel looks impressive as hell. I'm all for them pushing new women and bringing new women to the top. I just think that, I don't know, Rhea just seems like a squandered opportunity. She seemed like she was getting some real momentum earlier this year. And
I think her and Charlotte had the best match at Mania that I saw.
I thought so too.
Unbelievable. So I think she's capable of doing great things. I don't know enough about her. That was just my little take on it. But, it did a good job setting up, for the future of this. Again, I think what I saw overall in the episode was it was just, there was a lot of unanswered questions at the end, which is what you want. Yeah. If you have a good product with unanswered questions, you tune in next week. So, I think they did a good job with that main event as well.
This is a tough episode. I think NXT booking handled things well because you got to think they're coming off this major pay-per-view of NXT TakeOver 30. And you crown this new champion, top of the mountain, Karrion Kross. Now you have to abort that plan. And oh, by the way, build to a title match with only 6 days of a build on a day that you don't normally air. Like, this was tough, but I think they handled it well because by going through the show, there are a lot of headlines, title changes, and a first ever style Iron Man match that we've never seen before. So I mean, I think all things considered, they did well. NXT's booking led by Triple H. So that was NXT tonight.
NXT most of the time it makes sense. There are times when it doesn't, like when Charlotte dropped the title, and she wasn't pinned in that triple threat match, and Triple H said that, well, it'll make sense soon enough, and it never did. Charlotte just moved back to the main roster. So I don't know. I think other than that, there's a lot of cool openings that this show gave, and there's I think they did a good job building up Super Tuesday as well.
They did. So that'll be next Tuesday. And we know 1 hour of the 2 hours will be a world title match. So there you go. Real quick, a news item we'll touch on real quick before we get out of here. The post SummerSlam edition of Monday Night Raw this past week. Good news for the debut of Raw in the Thunderdome. It did the best viewership since the post WrestleMania episode of Raw. So that's really good news for WWE, who had been seeing a huge dip in their Raw viewership. This past Monday drew an average of 2.028 million viewers. That's up 23% from the week prior's 1.64 million average, which was the fourth lowest in the history of that show in Monday Night Raw. So hour 1, 2.1 million, hour 2, 2 million, and the final hour 1.9. But even still, that 1.9 in the third hour is still better than the majority of hours that they had been seeing these last couple months when they were in the PC. So, and Roman Reigns wasn't even on it, even though he was the big thing coming out of SummerSlam. He wasn't even, him, Fiend, Strowman, they're not even on it. So, that's just good news in general for what Raw has going on. We'll see if they can hold still or better next week for Monday Night Raw. And Buddy Barlow getting in a $2 super chat. Excited AEW will have fans back tomorrow. Yeah, AEW Dynamite supposed to be on tomorrow on TNT. And they are, what is it, Raj, like 15% capacity at Daily Center?
I believe it's 10 right now, and it's going to move to 15 in like 2 weeks or something like that.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah, and this is all the speculation. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it more throughout on Wrestling Inc. But, the reason AEW was not on tonight was because they were being preempted on TNT because of NBA playoffs. The NBA playoff games did not happen because the teams are boycotting due to the racial topics going on with the shooting by Wisconsin police. So now there's a lot of speculation. What happens tomorrow? Are they playing tomorrow? Do the games that didn't happen today, are they going to get delayed? Is that going to affect AEW and next week? So crazy times right now in the television world and in the world in general. But
I mean, 2020 is just chaos. But yeah. I was surprised that on TNT they didn't replay Saturday's episode of Dynamite. They showed some.
They showed the longest yard.
They showed the longest yard, and then some other like.
It's a damn good movie, though. Come on, can't be mad about that. You get to see Bob Sapp,
Goldberg,
all these
Goldberg,
guys.
Kevin Nash.
Wrestling fans love that movie.
Imagine Steve Austin in the same episode, the same scene.
Great Khali's in it.
Yeah, they're
Great
probably put that on to get the new viewers, and then just put the commercials for AEW on all night. They're smart people, man. We got this.
Sam, give us a plug. What do you want?
Real quick about the Raw ratings. I do got to bring this up. They were up 23% from last week, and this was the first time they've done over 2 million viewers since April, the April 6th episode, which was the post WrestleMania. So it's clear. I think it's clear. I don't know how long this lasts, but the atmosphere has been hurting WWE. Now, granted, the booking and everything, they've fallen year to year. That also has been hurting WWE, and they need to fix that. But the immediate drop from April to where we are now has been the Performance Center and the lack of fans and them not being able to adjust. And this Thunderdome has been able to fulfill that a little bit. I don't know if they're going to sustain this for long, but I think they're going to be above what they've been doing the last few months. So I think this Thunderdome, I think it's a success. Now, granted, they need to start creating superstars and get out of their heads of not wanting people to be bigger than the company. At some point, that's what sells. But this Thunderdome, it is a good, it is a stopgap measure. It's getting rid of all the fans that left because of the dullness of the PC. And SmackDown too. SmackDown this past Friday night, the first episode in the Thunderdome, the best episode, the most watched episode since the post WrestleMania SmackDown. So both episodes did the best. NXT was unopposed. They didn't have AEW. They did their best rating of the year. So a very good ratings week for WWE.
Yeah. And I think this Friday SmackDown will do well with with everybody on the hook with Roman Reigns and with the title change. So
yeah.
All right, Sam, put yourself over.
I am actually going to be in Dallas, Texas this weekend for the big Indie Wrestling Expo. Anybody that's listening to us right now in Dallas, please come check it out. I would love to meet as many of you as possible. It's a massive show. It's got Brian Cage, who I'm facing one-on-one. Lance Archer will be there, EC3, Nick Aldis. You can just search on Twitter, Indie Wrestling Expo. You'll find it. It's a great event. I hope anybody that's listening can make it out there. Other than that, you can find me in the usual places at Real Sam Adonis on Instagram and Twitter. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback on all this. I really enjoy this. I like meeting new people and just talking about wrestling the best we can. So I appreciate you guys for having me, and hopefully we keep this party rolling.
Raj?
Check out WrestlingNews.com, man. We got a murderer's row of interviews this week. We got Ric Flair, Aiden English, Matt Cardona, David Arquette. A bunch of stuff next week. I mentioned Renee Michelle, Matt Seidel, Kurt Angle. So a bunch of stuff coming up. So keep checking out WrestlingNews.com. All the latest news and a ton.
Raj, you need to come to this expo this weekend because there's so many interviews you can get. There's so many more people not named that'll be at that one. So
absolutely,
you get down there.
Once this, my wife won't let me fly right now.
well, the airports are no fun right now because you have to wear the mask the entire time you're in there. So
and the bars aren't open, right?
They are, but you have to sit one part from a seat away from each other.
Oh,
but it's rough. 7 hours in one of those masks. It's pretty, you get pretty claustrophobic.
Tomorrow afternoon, I'll be on the Wrestling Inc. Daily with Nick Hausman. We'll talk all the news headlines. Friday morning, I'll be on Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM with Mark Henry and Dave LaGreca from our normal 10 a.m. spot. And Friday night, I'll be here right after SmackDown with whatever crew we have assembled, but it'll be shenanigans for sure. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. Again, please make sure you leave a comment, a like. That helps the podcast. Get your super chat money ready for Friday night. Sam, thank you as always. Raj, thank you. And everybody, thank you. Have a good night. We'll be back here live on YouTube Friday night.
Thanks, guys.